I don't know how am I gonna go the rest of my life like this?
We are going to be talking about the epidemic of singleness. But what is really intriguing about today's video is Black females are starting to see the reality of it. But let's see where they were at first.
There are an increasingly large number of women who are just choosing not to get married. And
for the very last time, we are not having a mating crisis. What's happening is that women have access to information and education in ways that they didn't have in previous generations. We can now share stories and choose the bear. We can now own homes, open bank accounts. We know that. And we're not hypergamous as in we mate upwards. It was a necessity because we were blocked from owning things. You centralized through patriarchy the only access to independence and some form of survival and wealth into men, forcing women to have to choose. And as soon as we dismantled parts of the patriarchy to allow access to education, employment, financial stability independently, we exercised our choice. It is not a crisis, it's a liberation.
Regardless of the fact that there is proof that there is going to be a high percentage of Black females who are not going to be married and childless, they were still in denial and chose the bear. But let's see what they're starting to see today.
Where are the men? I love us women, but I'm tired of going to events and it's 1,000,001 girls and there's 2 men in the corner. Men, y'all don't want to leave your houses no more? What y'all doing? Y'all, we say we over the apps, but y'all sure not outside.
I guess it's becoming quite evident that men are slowly no longer being interested in pursuing any type of relationship with Black female. They all thought that they could be able to manifest the dream man and the dream lifestyle they all thought they deserved.
And I don't know if y'all saw, I forget the name of the church. It was Union City or something church in Maryland, in that area. And they had a singles conference. And it was the line of single people was wrapped around the block. It was you would have thought Beyonce was in there. It was jam-packed. So I'm all these single people looking for love, looking for relation. Something is going wrong. Something is going on. It can't be all of these single people and they're just, all of these single people, it can't be something wrong with them individually. There is just something going on in culture. There is something going on in society where people are just, I don't know, not genuine. People don't desire long-term relationships, marriages. It's a single epidemic. It's a single pandemic. There's something going on. And
welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen, so you already know what I am about. So let's get on into it. So this particular bit of information, this is from Remnant Princess. And her big thing is just basically, Black women have to admit, that there was people that were right about the single epidemic, which is on the rise. And, I thought this was really interesting. Like I say, it came through my feed and I had wanted to, talk to it. And see, I think one of the problems is that we're not looking at this really truly in a very scientific way. I think people are trying to. But when there's a lot of pain involved, and there's almost always pain involved, if you yourself are connected to it or somebody else that is connected to it, you're not able to see the bigger picture a lot of times. And honestly, like I said, it takes me a lot to step back and really try to see, the bigger picture. But in order to see it, you really have to, like I said, be able to see it from both sides. That's why it's always funny to me how, people be out here and they only want to see it from the woman's perspective, or they only want to see it from the male perspective. But you really kind of have to see it, from both perspectives to really kind of understand what's going on. Now, from a Christian perspective, we would say, this is what the enemy wants. This is what he has been planting seeds for a long period of time, and he is reaping the crop, that he wanted. And it's very unfortunate because a lot of Christian women, get themselves caught in the same trap as women in the world. And there is arguments out there, even with that a lot of women don't even come to Christianity or take it seriously, until they themselves find themselves in really awkward, predicaments. But I would also argue, just to be real, is that a lot of men don't come to Christ until they can truly see, their own mortality. Like at this point in my life, since I'm in my 40s, almost every single man that I know, both near and far, no matter who I knew them to be in high school, middle school, college, almost all of them are now Christian. It is nothing for me to be sitting around with a lot of them and we ended up talking about God. That would have never happened, 20, 25 years ago, because they weren't concerned about that. They were out in the street. They were doing whatever they wanted to do. They were having a good time. They were doing their best to forget God or not to think about God, because they didn't want to think, okay, that I have this high-powered God that's watching me, do all these things that I know he does not want me to do. But as they've gotten older, especially once you get to that mid 35 point and your body starts to change and the chemicals start to change and you start to experience real fear, for the very first time in your life, at that point, you really do start to change your perspective and you start to say, oh, I'm really not going to live forever. Because at 18, you feel like you're going to live forever. But at 35, you don't feel like you're going to live forever anymore. So now all of a sudden you start to say, okay, start looking for answers, right? And even when you look at the Bible, there was actually very few people that came to God early. That was most of them came to God late, in their 30s, in their 40s, especially if there was not a big God presence already, on the land. So that's just something else for you all to research and look up if you want. Now let's get to this main point. Well, in the beginning, you saw the one lady talking about resources, hypergamy, different things like that, and the fact that women in the past were looking for those things. And it's always interesting when black women get caught up in white feminist rhetoric. And I don't say that in a bad way to go against white people and stuff like that. You've never really heard me call white women snow bunnies and all this other kind of stuff that people like to use, in these environments. I always try to be respectful because I don't know who's watching. And to be honest with you, I don't think the problem really is white people per se. I think the issue here, what we're talking about right at this moment, is not the sins, quote unquote, of what white people have done in the past to the, to generational black people. But in our current mindset, we have to have people that can see outside of that. And one of the things that was really interesting is that black women have always worked. Always, always, always. When they brought, black men and women over here, black women worked in the fields right next to black men. Now, yes, they would give black women tasks that they thought a woman would do better and it would be easier for her. Like more black women had the opportunity to, quote unquote, work in the house, so to speak. But in reality of it, though, they were still working. All right. Even through civil rights, they were working. They were always working. So this concept that black women, were out here like white women, quote unquote, trying to marry for all this money, it doesn't really hold water. All right. It doesn't. Now, historically, okay, black men did make more money than black women. And then black women also did not have access to credit and things like that. So they could not buy homes. They could not, buy cars and different things like that. And if they did do it, they had to find a workaround. Okay, because you do have instances, where you did have that. Like there were black female millionaires, okay, way, way, way back in the day. And again, you have to know your history. So now let's get to it and talk about it from, again, a little bit better understanding. See, as this information is flooding out, it's all about, again, who you're listening to. One of the things that I'm always telling you is, like I said, you show me your social media, I'll show you your future. You show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Why are both of these things so effective in your life? Well, these are the things that you're spending time researching, looking at, having discussions. And these are the people, when it comes to, your friends that are literally speaking into your life. And then when you're dealing with your social media is quote unquote speaking into your life. So if you are sitting around believing, okay, that there's no good men or there's no good women, you're going to get caught up in that. Sooner or later, it's going to affect you. Like even with me on this channel, I know some of you might have noticed that I've been doing a lot more interviews lately. And the main reason why I've been doing those is because a lot of times the reaction videos, they take a lot out of me. Because that is me. I have to go find them. I have to watch a lot of videos. And then, again, this is negative energy. This is not good energy, for me to be out here and trying to be single and trying to find my person, right? But I also need to dispel some of it, to help you all to see it as well, right? But I was constantly feeling like, wow, man, this is just, I feel negative. I feel, and so I was like, I need a break from some of this. So if I can have a conversation, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of digest the information. That being said, what you're dealing with when it talks about, again, about the single epidemic is not just affecting Black people. It's affecting all races, all right? And the sad part about it is you're dealing with the fact that a lot of Black women, in fact, I would say most of them, well over 50% of them, could actually get themselves out of it. They really could. But it's like they get caught up in, okay, who do I listen to? Why do I listen to this? Why do I listen to that? And then it's like all of the media romance and hype that sits on top. Like I say, Hollywood is guilty as well. Hollywood has taught women, period, okay, not just Black women, but all women, that men exist that are these super dudes. They speak the right thing. They're the right height. They have the right look. The perfect hair, the perfect beard, the perfect outfit. They say the perfect thing. And in reality, 9 times out of 10, when those men are very close to those men show up, that's the exact opposite of what you want. That's why I'm always, encouraging women to look at the quote unquote bromance, type of film. Look at what men are searching for. I know some of men that watch this channel will watch anime, okay? And ladies, if you really want to understand men, you really should watch anime. Even in the popular anime, you get a really good understanding of the way men work. Like one of the most popular animes is Naruto, okay? And some people might say I pronounced it wrong, but hey, I live in America, right? So in Naruto, we follow a guy, okay, who starts out as the weakest, absolutely the weakest. And over 150 episodes, literally, because the whole thing is like 800, 900 episodes, plus they got like 9 movies. But over like the first 150 episodes, he finally comes into his own. He finally comes into his strength. But we watch him fumble and fall over and over and over again. And the guy that is his quote unquote rival, because in the Asian culture, you have someone that's kind of like a friend, but then they kind of want the same things you want. And because of that, they consider that person their rival. And so their rival is this guy named Sasuke. Okay. And Sasuke is the attractive guy. He comes from a great background, and all the women want Sasuke, right? And even Naruto, the woman he likes, the girl he likes, Sakura, okay, Sasuke likes her. Sasuke is who she likes. So Naruto can't win. There's nothing he can do. The only thing he can do is focus on getting stronger. So he keeps talking about, I am going to be the best. I am going to be the best. I have to push myself. Nobody else is pushing me. Nobody believes in me. I'm always on my own. I'm always doing these things. And it's through that he wins people over, because they see his constant determination, even though the woman he likes doesn't want him. The rival, everybody thinks he's so attractive, but he keeps pushing. He keeps pushing. That is the male narrative. That is what men go through. And what's interesting about it is he ends up, Naruto ends up marrying a woman named Hinata. Okay, and so if I just messed it up, I'm sorry for the spoiler. But he marries Hinata, right? And what's interesting about that was Hinata was the girl that liked Naruto, not in reverse. Naruto really didn't pay attention to Hinata until basically she confessed her love for him. And at that point, that's when he started paying attention to her. And then he ended up going down that route, even though we can still feel as though he had love for Sakura. And see, that's the thing that, again, men are talking to men. They're teaching men. You see something similar, like I say, in Spider-Man. You see something similar in Captain America. You see these men that have nothing, that are geeks, that are nerds, that are weirdos to common society, and they have to constantly fight up this ladder, right? And the reason why women need to understand this is because that is the desire of the heart of men. While the desire of the heart of the woman is to sit here doing nothing, not really, working on anything on the inside, on the outside, just going about her life. And then this absolutely awesome man pops up in her life and then whisks her away to some kind of ever after. And see, that's Hollywood doing damage because that man is extremely rare. And so those men tend to run through women. But the Narutos of the world, the Peter Parkers of the world, okay, the Captain Americas before he, turns into Captain America, that's the average dude. All right? And see, that is that place where women have to understand that, okay, I'm bypassing the average dude, but the average dude has the desire to go as the train goes down the train tracks and become better. He has his vision. He's going down. He's making it happen. And that's the key. And I'm always encouraging women, find a man that has a vision. You marry his vision. And there's this big thing about settling. Okay, a man that has vision, that treats you well, and that in your eyes, he at least looks decent. That is not you settling. That is you found a gem. But anyway, let me get back to this video. So with the video, the woman's argument, the main woman over the remnant princess, her argument is that a lot of women are now changing their tone. But see, you have to understand, we're dealing with not only loneliness, but we're dealing with the fact that people, a lot of times, they don't know. Recently, I did an interview. I hope some of you saw it, with Ty from the Shah. Okay. And me and her were talking about it. And I was literally like, trying to ask her, like, do you think black women will ever figure this out? Because we're having so many issues. Do you think we'll figure it out? And she basically was like, I do think women do figure it out, but many times they figure it out later in life, 28 heading into 30. That's when they figure it out. And I was like, can we get it into them earlier? And so her concept was to get it into them as children. And I agree with that. But again, the access to children is very difficult. And see, the problem is, a woman's best time is always in her 20s. It's always going to be that way. It's never going to change. Because the window, for children closes rapidly. So between 25 and 35, and I'm not saying women can't have, children at 45, but it's like for most people, okay, that window is closing very rapidly. So it's very difficult for women to get their mind right. And even in those 10 years, it still opens them up from everything from soul ties to actually having, children out of wedlock. So now, again, you end up in a situation where you're worse off when you finally get the epiphany, okay, than you were before. Now, I do believe, again, that there's a good portion of women that don't really aspire to any of these things, okay? And I think the issue with them is, and again, me and Ty from the shop, we're talking about it, those women have to get out of the house. And I know their big thing is, okay, where to go? And I've always said, you can find men at church, but you cannot be so quick to run out the door and run to your car during the benediction. And again, every time I talk to women about it, first of all, they admit they do it. And then second of all, they say, well, at church, I really don't want to think about it, because I'm just there to worship God. And I'm like, look, after church is what I'm talking about. I'm saying once the benediction is over, you got 30 minutes usually before the next, group of people start coming in, for the next service. Spend that time, walk around, go get some coffee, because some places have coffee or whatever it is. Sit down on a bench, watch people watch for a while. Just give yourself the opportunity. Because if you don't give yourself the opportunity, you're never going to have, like I said, you're never going to have that chance. And so now you end up making all these complaints and anger. Oh, I want a Christian man. I want this. I want that. And you could have had it if you would have just taken 10 minutes every Sunday. And I know, like I said, it can be difficult. That's why for me, like I said, whatever side of the church I'm sitting on, if I'm sitting on the right-hand side, then at the end of the church, once the benediction comes, I literally will walk through the church to go to the left-hand side, to go out those doors. And then I find the bathroom on that side. And then I use the bathroom. And then I go upstairs and I go to the far side of the church first. And then I walk back through the church. And what that does is it forces me to take an extra 10 minutes at church. And that's not something, everybody can do that. It's not difficult to do. Or like I said, you can work in the church. One of the easiest ways to meet people is actually just to work, and you can work at the ministry that you feel the most comfortable. Okay. You can work, as a greeter, because the greeters will, talk to each other, maybe before and after service. You can work in the children's ministry. You can work with the babies. You can work in the, audio video. But you've got to give yourself the opportunity to meet people. And then when you meet people, don't be so quick to dismiss, because you don't know. And see, I think the problem with all of this is that, again, it's always about the social media you're looking at. Even today, according to her argument, women have have changed. But see, that's the part I disagree with. There have always been women, even in the midst of the highest height of Black feminism. There's always been women that have basically said, I want to get married. I want a man. I want children. I want to stay at home. Like I've explained to you, I literally know 2 women that are stay-at-home moms. And what's interesting about them is, according to my channel and a lot of other, people out here, those women would be considered masculine women. In fact, when I find a lot of women that want to stay at home, especially when they want to work, when I'm talking about work, I'm talking about they want to do more work with their children. They want to teach their children, like maybe homeschool. They want to be more active in their children's lives in order to bring them to a better level. As crazy as it sounds, a lot of the women that I run into that really wanted that were actually what I would consider masculine women, which is very interesting to me. But it's the feminine women, I think, that are afraid to make that choice. They're afraid because they don't really know, because they're getting all this information from social media that's encouraging them to work, and you can't trust a man and stuff like that. And one of the things that you'll find in a lot, not all, but a lot of feminine women, is that a lot of them really are afraid. And so they don't really know. And so they're trying to figure it out. That's why they're out on social media in the first place, trying to figure it out. But it's like, at the end of the day, you have to figure out what is your number one source for information. And what I'm encouraging you to do, I'm not so much saying I'm boosting this channel. Your number one source of information needs to be from God. And God says, be courageous. He knows you have fear. Okay, but be courageous and try to live your life as close as possible to what he has set forth. Okay? And when you're talking about that life, that's a life of marriage. And even when we start to talk about, women staying at home, okay, even though the Bible can't really show it, and I've even talked about Proverbs 31, where that woman actually worked. She had her own businesses. Okay. But there were also women in the Bible, as we all know, there were really, in our modern day, they would be stay-at-home moms. They just took care of the kids, took care of any small chores around the house. That's what their life was. And their husbands might have went off to war or do whatever, but their job was to basically take care of home. So you actually have both in the Bible. but you have to find out which one you are best for. Because if the stress of working at a company burdens you, or the concerns of your children going through life, and you not being able to get off work and do things for them, if that burdens you, you need to be leaning more towards a life where you can actually spend more time with your kids and less time at a job. But I did want to let you all know that, again, there are men that want to get married. There are women that want to get married. Again, this is just gender war stuff. Gender war, gender war, gender war. That's all it is. That's all it's ever going to be. And remember, people are profiting off of the gender war. So we have to remember how all of this is going down. Anyway, remember, every other Thursday, we do Thursday Talks. That's when you can come out. You can talk about this particular video. You can tell me you hated it. You can tell me you loved it. You can say whatever. If you don't want to be on camera, you can hit up the chat. Okay, there's no official link. It starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time. But if you look at the community page, I always, put a link out there early in the morning to say, hey, we're going to do it tonight, blah, blah, blah. So, you can come out. You can wait till 7:05. Pop into the chat, because you'll see it pop up, immediately if you're actually on my page at 7:05. And if not, like I said, you can use the link, Zoom link. You can come in. You can talk directly. If you do use the Zoom link, try to at least put on a nice shirt and comb your hair, because I want you on video. I do not like talking to names or to pictures. Anyway, please like and subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.